Leona was actually banned by International Jobcenter last game as well, so they clearly wanted this pick for themselves. Again, obviously, her ultimate is a great piece of CC into the team fight. Very tanky support as well, so you can kind of give room for Zeri to sort of like try and get the snipes, do a lot of damage into the early game. But I feel like where they're going to be really watching out for is obviously Rakan has great access into the backline, so he can leap in there. Lilia can leap in as well, which is one of the picks we was obviously talking about within the game 1 and game 2 break. So Lilia coming through here for the side of Vapo, more than likely going to be into that jungle.
Yeah, it's really important that the Lilia does get picked here because, as I mentioned, you know, in terms of that AP damage source, I would like for Vapo to ban away some AP champions now, especially some AP solo laners. I'm thinking of like Mordekaiser Vladimir could be very, very good bans here because, as I mentioned, the Jax is not going to be enough. Obviously, Zeri doesn't deal AP damage at all unless you go for this crazy Chinese build that they did with like Manimune 24 Rhythmic, and you basically don't even tickle enemies. Like, it's just that bad. So I would like for maybe one of them to get banned away, as I said, Mordekaiser or the but they ban away junglers, so they're trying to get Snorlax off of Comfort here, trying to get him on another champion. But yeah, I really like the Lilia priority, again, champion that does the AP damage and does enough AP damage as well. But be interesting to see what International Jobcenter round out their composition with, to see if they think that the Jax is maybe going to do enough AP damage and they can go for, you know, 2 other AD champions.
I mean, potentially we could get Gragas into the jungle as well, right? Like, if they really wanted to go for AP, they could definitely lock in the Gragas here for Snorlax onto the side of International Jobcenter. It gives over a little bit more CC, kind of splits away the team fight potential for Vapo, kind of just separates them all a little bit. Maybe potential for Jax to jump in onto one of those stranglers there that does get split away from those barrels. So still potential here. Obviously, the Volibear and the Renekton being banned out as well. Volibear obviously does a little bit of AP as well. So definitely a good ban there. I mean, I can't potentially see them going for a Jhin here. Surely not.
No, they won't go for a Jhin. It's just a hover. Unless they want to go Zeri mid, but I do not have. Don't think that's going to be a very fun time in the side lane. I think it's just a hover for now, and they're probably thinking of what champions they want to pick. Lee Sin is a very aggressive pick here if they want to go for this. They do have a really strong early game though, with the lockdown with Leona, with Jax can be very strong as well. We're looking at a random pick here to see what he's going to go for. Maybe it seems like they think that the Jax is going to be enough in terms of the AP damage here, and they're just going to go. I mean, like I said, unless the Zeri goes for like a more AP style build, I still don't think this Jax is going to be enough. I mean, it doesn't put you on the complete back foot, you know, to start things off, but it does make it a little bit difficult. So do go for Darius. So it is basically a full AD team comp here for International Jobcenter. You know, the likes of the Wukong can build items like Death Stance, and also Plated Steel Cap is going to be very strong this game. Rakan, when he goes full tank, is also going to be very strong. Wonder what their last pick is going to be here. They could try and pick maybe a different tank, or you got a few other bruisers that are available, like Fiora. Could be a possibility. Looks like Olaf solo lane. Maybe.
Yeah, so Olaf solo lane, Wukong jungle.
Unless it's Lilia mid. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen Lilia mid.
yeah.
I've seen Lilia mid in China before, so I'm not I'm not cancelling it out just yet.
Potential Wukong here into the mid lane. I mean, going against Darius. I mean, they're not going to go face to face at the mid lane anyway, right? They're definitely going to obviously split apart, go down to the one side of the map anyway. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, it's probably going to be those two into the mid lane there, the Darius and the Wukong, as we see here. But I think it's like a little bit of a same song and dance here for the side of International Jobcenter, right? I mean, Lazeri's going to play that same kind of role that the Ezreal did, obviously just poke him from the back line. Obviously, it's a great sort of like escapability. Definitely has the ins and outs with the parkour from Zeri as well, just kind of like the flashes with Ezreal. So it kind of feels like that same kind of what they're going to go for with this in game number 1 for game number 2 for the side of International Jobcenter. But again, we're kind of going back to some of those picks that we're not quite used to seeing within the big meta picks of what the Rift Legends battles were like, right?
I mean, exactly, and that's why everyone loves Fearless. You know, whether you're a viewer, whether you're one of us, and even some of the players like it as well. Some one tricks might not like it, but some players definitely prefer it because it means that they can show off and they can express their really high level of multiple champions. You know, you're seeing champions like Darius this game. Lee Sin, you might not be able to see that much. Zeri as well would definitely not get picked in general. So there's a lot of different picks here. Again, the only worry that I have for International Jobcenter is definitely their, their sort of AP damage that they have, with Olaf on the other side. Lydia not too much as a tank, but like Olaf and Wukong is going to be very difficult to kill, I feel like, for International Jobcenter. But if the Jax does join these team fights and maybe builds a little bit more ability power, then it could be enough.
We'll have to wait and see, right? I mean, definitely going to be going into game 2 here between International Jobcenter and Vapo this time around. As again, obviously, this is game number 2. There is still a potential of 2 more games unless Vapo comes back in this one and bring it to a 1-1. But already, obviously, we're just kind of seeing maybe like trying to just bait away, trying to just disrupt the flow of the jungle for the side of International Jobcenter.
Yeah, this is always the thing that happens for Vapo. I think the big thing is trying to take away some of the jungle camps and try and put Lee Sin behind as much as possible. They do have the pushing priority in mid with the Varus early on, using their piercing arrow to try and push in the wave and try and get advantages elsewhere. You see this quite a lot happen because they want to try and get Lee Sin behind as much as possible. But they're not going to go for the invader the second time. They do have a ward on there though, so they do know that the Lee Sin is going to be around the bottom side of the map. Meanwhile, Olaf is clearing his top side, so both junglers at the moment just clearing both their sides of the map and just going to be trading probably skull crabs at the end of the jungle clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good. It could be a little bit of good intel here for the side of Vapo, right? Just knowing the whereabouts of Snorlax on this Lee Sin. Because again, it's just a sleepy champion. Trying to steal the scuttle here for the Vapo.
Really
so
well
able
played.
to get it. Yep. So gives them, again, some more vision, like we've already seen. Kind of trying to create like a vision line for themselves. So trying to mitigate those potential ganks going here through for International Jobcenter.
Vapo doing a really good job right now of putting the Lee Sin behind. The Lee Sin is a champion that needs to be ahead early on because the junglers need to get all the raptors. They need to get that scuttle crab, not just for the for the gold, but also for the experience to get to level 5 as soon as possible. Them not being able to get that and that mid lane priority coming in here for Vapo, definitely big for them in this early game. You can see Queenie already level 5. Snorlax still only level 4 running around. He's got no other jungle camps to take at all. He's still going to be a few few minutes behind, really, Queenie at this point. They're both just going to wait for their jungle camps to spawn, though. You can see the pings going down, knowing that the Olaf is on this bottom side. Top side, though, Jax is also a level ahead, so it's a bit back and forth at the moment, but definitely a big advantage for Vapo in this early game.
Yeah, they've got to be careful, right? They've got to make sure that they don't get ganked. You can kind of see that's what Vapo's going for, and obviously gain that vision here, but a big commitment here for Queenie going in with the Olaf. Counter-Strike is going to be enough to actually keep them away as well.
Boy. Oh, it's just a horror of an engage. Like, we have Queenie jumping in, but just at the complete wrong time. It's just really, it was just no communication there at all. For Vapo, Queenie's looking to dive in. There's no minion wave underneath the tower though, and then the Varus and the Wukong come on by. Sorry, the Varus and the Rakan come on by, but they just can't do enough. They weren't able to go for the tower dive, and they weren't able to get the kills. But here comes Sleepy.
The Drowsy comes through with a knockup from the Rakan as well. It's not gonna be enough to keep Quaint alive. He does keep him alive, sorry, and he is able to flash out of there as well. So just kind of just beating it all out. Trying to just potentially just tease here, Vapo. We do see, obviously, Queenie is into the enemy jungle as well. We're giving a few trades over to Snorlax. Snorlax looking pretty low. He's able to get out as well. Just trying to just tease them. Just teasing International Jobcenter at this point.
Again, they're just trying to put this Lee Sin behind us as much as possible, invading, trying to put him behind. The problem was because that Vapo went for that tower dive in the bot side, it meant that it opened up room for Snorlax to look for an invade because Queenie was really low on HP. Their bot lane was also super low on HP, so it gave them a window, and Lee Sin being able to steal a camp means he's now caught up on experience and gold now as well. So that one mistake that Vapo makes in the bot side means that whole momentum that they got from the early game and Queenie in terms of the experience and the gold pretty much been evaporated so far.
Yeah, I mean, they could potentially get it back, obviously, with these neutral objectives coming up. They didn't quite able to contest the Enchanted Ensemble in game number 1, right? So potentially they try and go for that, try and get a bit of damage either into the mid lane or one of these side lanes when they have priority, because they naturally have the minion waves crashing in for now, but still 20 seconds for these neutral objectives to pop up. Vapo currently behind with the gold for now.
Just 1,000 goldie to start things off though. Again, that one kill, that first blood extra gold as well is definitely going to come in handy. Looking at the builds across the board, nothing too crazy in terms of the builds. You know, Zeri is going to be going for AD Zeri. So again, as I mentioned before, I'm a little bit worried about the damage output and the damage spread really for International Jobcenter. But as I mentioned, sometimes you can just, you know, it's just a player diff happens in the game and it doesn't actually matter. If you go for a full AD comp, it doesn't mean that you're going to be that far behind. Again, this Lee Sin is having a very, very difficult time this game, being put further and further behind. The Rift Herald's already taken. That's going to be used in that mid lane. Leona ulti completely misses as there's exchange coming on through. Rakan uses the quickness. As soon as the Leona jumps on in, they can get one kill here, and they might be able to get more with the Jax jumping back in, but it's so difficult for them to lock down these targets. The sleepy time comes on through. Queenie runs on in and gets a few more kills as well. So that's 3 kills over to Vapo in this trade. And it means that they can try and go towards this dragon as well. Lilia proving to be a really big pick in this early game.
Yeah, it's definitely working well for them, right? I mean, they're going for the second neutral objective here, getting the Infernal Drake, which, I mean, if they're able to sort of take the Soul completely uncontested and they actually get to that point in the game, it's definitely going to pay a lot of dividends here for the side of Vapo, especially on picks like the Varus, especially Lilia as well. Already seeing promising damage outputs coming here from Vapo. So they definitely have, or trying to still maintain the momentum like we was on about, and we thought was evaporated in that early game, right? Vapo bringing it back, especially with those 2 objective takedowns.
And look at that jungle gold lead now. You've seen the reason why Lee Sin doesn't really get picked too much in competitive. You know, Lee Sin is all about snowballing. It's all about getting that early lead, using that aggression early on, ganking in side lanes, going for tower dives. Problem is, you don't really have anyone to tower dive. You know, you can't tower dive a Wukong, you can't tower dive a Lilia, and tower dive in mid lane is just pretty much impossible. Normally what happens in solo queue when you're picking, you know, going for picks like Lee Sin, you punish the over aggression. You go for tower dives in the bot lane to try and get your duo lane ahead. It's a lot more difficult to do in the mid lane because the mid lane is a lot smaller of a lane, so it's very difficult for them to capitalize onto it for now. And you're seeing that Lee Sin is over 1,000 gold behind already in this early game, and even the Lilia now, this Lilia side lane is proven to be pretty difficult to keep hold of.
Chain to Corruption there was having to lock random insight there, so just keeping him locked into one place was enough here for Vapo just to kind of come around, try and negate this minion wave into the mid lane, and so has happened here for International Jobcenter. They're just definitely going like tit for tat within these team fights. They're playing it very well. Definitely a better Vapo than game number 1, right? I mean, they definitely have more kills at this point in the game as well. 1v1 the top side of the map. Random is definitely taking a little bit of damage. The DOT is coming on to Lilia though, but it's not going to be there to do enough damage, but it's actually going to be Tongtong's Zahor that gets taken down.
Yeah, really big mistake again from Vapo. You know, the Rakan rotating up to bot side, trying to defend against the Darius. Meanwhile, Varus is left all by himself to mid. And what did I just mention about Lee Sin? He's a champion that wants to tower dive, punish the over aggressions, as Vapo do get a response though in the bottom side. But as soon as you leave that Varus alone in the mid lane, as soon as he doesn't have any protection, that's Snorlax's window to dive on through and use his kick and use the crowd control that they have from the Leona and also the Lee Sin. So they were able to trade with the bot side, but this Rakan this game needs to be very careful when rotating because you don't want to leave that Varus by himself in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake they probably make once. Maybe they won't make that again now for Vapo. As you said, obviously Lee Sin is going to be taking his chance. Snorlax here, he knows when to strike, and he struck when the Highland was on, and he got the kill. He was able to get what he came there for. So right now, Vapo need to adjust with that one, and they definitely have paid with the gold lead. Obviously, it's not that great for them right now. They're only ahead by around about 1k gold, whereas prior to that moment, they was ahead by at least 2.5 as well. So they definitely need to make sure they're not making these small mistakes going forward.
Trying to go for another tower dive here. Needs to be a little bit careful. Quant does miss the ultimate there on Leona. The mobility proving to be very difficult here for International Jobcenter. Nice flash away though from Quant, does save him away from the quickness and the knock-up. But if you look at the scaling on both compositions as well, I think I'd much prefer Vapo's composition in terms of scaling. You know, the Varus is going to be very scary later on. The Wukong the Lilia and the Olaf are just going to be running you down, and the scaling is looking very, very strong. This Darius might find it a little bit difficult as well, but as I mentioned, things like armor is going to be very important for this team. Of Snorlax jumping in onto the backline, onto that Varus. Again, the Varus completely caught out by Snorlax. They go for a tower dive in that mid lane. They really wanted to try and get that mid lane tower, but it basically lost their whole lives for it, and they even lose the mid tower themselves. So again, Vapo making these little mistakes during this game, and International Jobcenter are there ready to pounce as soon as they make their mistakes.
Yep, give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and they've already been showing that, right? Like we said, into the mid lane when they left. The Varus alone, Susanoo went down to the bot side of the map. We saw the Snorlax strike. They tried to go for the mid T1. They lost 3 of their lives. They got the T1 though, however, but then International Jobcenter was just like, guys, we can then just go for their mid lane, and it just completely just stops that momentum that Vapo has the interest of making and gaining, and then they just lose it straight away, which is probably going to be the downfall of them in this game too, right? Obviously scaling, yes, they have that in their favor, but can they kind of mitigate making too many big mistakes?
As I mentioned, the scaling you'd probably favor Vapo, but in these team fights, when it's come down to mistakes so far, Vapo has been it's been very difficult for them to try and capitalize. It looks like International Jobcenter are going to give up on this 3rd dragon. They don't feel comfortable in these 5v5 team fights, and I think they're just not going to be comfortable at all in these team fights. You're seeing they're playing more for the split push with Darius on one side, Jax on the other. These champions can be very difficult to try and shut down in the side lane. But it's, yeah, I mean, when it comes to dragon fights as well, Snorlax, random, using the ghost to try and engage here. Uses that flash as well with the pull. Snorlax is going to try and burst down, but the sleepy comes in, but it does not matter. Random with the slam dunk through the sleep. And that's a really big pick again from International Jobcenter to try and get this Darius ahead.
Yeah, Lilia tried to use the sleep paralysis demons, and it just wasn't enough for the paralysis for random, right? He just came in, got the slam dunk, got the kill, and he was just like, I'm getting out of here, GG's, FF at 15. But right now we are seeing a bit of a push into the bot side of the map. We do have the minion wave come through random. Looking to chunk a bit of damage from Lilo here onto Wukong, and Wukong is definitely taking a lot of damage here from the Zeri. Zeri just working it down, using the Ultim as well.
Oh my god.
Damage. The healing comes through just a nick of time there for the Wukong to stay alive. But all while that was happening, we have obviously Jax just working his magic. Give him a real weapon and he will take your top lane.
Is he going to use flash here? Is he going to flash forward with the ulti? Really nice ulti flash, but he still has the counter strike as well. Lilia can't follow up either. Lilia still doesn't have her ultimate, so it's so difficult for her to try and catch. She is going to get that extra movement speed, but here comes the rest of International Jobcenter, and that is a wasted flash for the Varus, and they're going to look for the re-engage instead. Quant does bait out the stasis, does use the flash to get away as well. Queen is going to try and jump on through with the ultimate, but it does mean it's going to be very, very squishy, and this fight could go either way right now as the members, the sleepy actually comes on through in the end. The backline is getting lower and lower for International Jobcenter, but Zeri is still alive. There's another Varus ultimate that came through. He just used that 20 seconds ago. Where did he find that one from? Another piercing arrow as well. Double kill for the Varus, and it's a team fight winner, potentially the Baron over to Vapo.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you were talking about earlier, Stu, was the fact that the Varus, obviously, as the game progresses, his damage is going to hurt. I mean, he missed one of his snipes there onto the side of International Jobcenter in the early part of that, last little part of that engage, but then it came in when it mattered, right? Taking down Shy was definitely the point, what they really needed, because Shy was doing a lot of damage into the early part of that team fight, was definitely trying to run down Vapo's team health bars, but it just wasn't enough. The aggression here that we can see from this team comp of Vapo is paying off for now.
Yeah, and you're seeing the difficulties already, I think, with just, I mean, even just plated steel caps by itself, you're already seeing the difficulty in terms of damage. You know, they can't burst down the Olaf. They can't burst down this Wukong on the backline. Look, Wukong's going to go Zeke's Convergence, second item. He already has a Bramble Vest. He has the Gargle Stone Plate. Who on International Jobcenter is even going to take down this Jax at this point? Frozen Heart, third item for Queenie. I mean, I guess Death's Dance is just not an item. He's going for Black Cleaver and Frozen Heart, and he doesn't want to go for Death's Dance. But now with the Baron in the hands of Vapo, you can see that they're trying to look to make amends in this mid lane and try and get back in this game number 2. The mid lane tier 2 does go down. Meanwhile, Carlos is still pushing in that bot side, so he's trying to make sure that all 3 inhibitors don't get taken down. No inhibitors are down just yet. They're engaging onto the Zeri. The cleanse does come on through, though, and it's going to be very difficult for them to try and escape this one. Again, going for the tower dive, going all the way through. Olaf is like Bro Massio and runs all the way straight under the Nexus. It's enough to distract International Jobcenter. That is going to be a kill, but look at the flanks, though. The flank from the Lee Sin could be huge.
No.
Oh, he misses! He misses the Q, and Snorlax.
Oh, no.
That was a recipe for disaster. And now the dragon's going to be spawning in 30 seconds. Snorlax is not going to be alive. He might have to just buy TP at this point to try and get to the dragon, because this might be Infernal Soul over to Vapo.
Yeah, he had the $1 million shot there. If he was able to get that and land that, he would have taken out at least 1 or 2 of the side of Vapo, but it just wasn't enough. Snorlax was just kind of, he cracked under the pressure there. It came through, connected onto nobody, and then kind of made the mistakes that Vapo were doing in the early game. But this is definitely a clear comeback here for Vapo, right? They've got 2 Dragon Souls. The third one is up very soon. If the damage is frightful now for Vapo, it's going to get even worse if they're able to claim this Infernal Dragon Soul as well, right?
Yeah, no TP purchase from this Lee Sin, so it's just going to be Infernal Soul over to Vapo, and their combo is just going to get stronger and stronger. You can see armor is being built across the board. More armor for Olaf, more armor for this Wukong. Even the Rakan as well is also going for Twin Guard, Zeke's Convergence first item. And I think at this point, you just don't have the damage for International Jobcenter. You don't have the, as I mentioned, the AP damage source is something that I'm going to be talking about throughout the whole of this weekend. But it's such a vital part when it comes to Fearless Draft. Knowing what AP options are open, knowing when to pick certain AP options as well. This game we have the Jax, but as I mentioned, the Jax is not going to have enough AP damage, enough consistent AP damage to warrant it being that AP pick, as I mentioned. So yeah, it's very hard. I mean, it's definitely a bit of a draft difference this game for sure, as Olaf has now gotten the Twin Guard. Wukong does need to be a little bit careful. Look at that, uses a clone as the distraction in the end. Very clever from the Wukong.
Yeah, beautiful bait and switch there from Lilo on the Wukong. But like you were saying there, just the AP, the need for AP within this Fearless draft, because like, again, it's not just like any kind of the kind of like global BP, right? Like if you take away AP heroes, champions in one game, your enemy team can't use them as well. So that's what they're playing with their strengths here. We do see the quickness being committed in straight away. That is a huge takedown for the side of Vapo, taking down the Leona for now. Olaf straight to the backline there, takes down Shy as well. One of their only damage outputs, and then leave them only with Snorlax standing. Snorlax is just like, guys, you were here a moment ago, now you are gone. And right now, Vapo have that mini wave to the top side of the map that they can really just push here, forcing the recall here for Snorlax. Is he going to come? Is he going to answer the call? Probably not. No, he's not going to answer it. He was trying to stop the minion wave, but he completely forgot about the top wave. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a series on our hands. 1-1 between International Jobcenter and Vapo as we head into game number 3. And to remind everyone, this is Fearless Draft, baby. 10 champions are now going to be out of the pool completely for this game, as Blam, I think, was frozen. Frozen.
He's good now. He's back. He's back with us. He's a bit surprised that even Vapo won a game in the end, but incredible performance in the end from Vapo. Again, I think it just comes down to the draft itself. That Lilia pick to start things off in that first rotation, picking it in a side lane, which we don't actually see in EMEA. I think this might be one of the first times we've actually seen it in EMEA. Again, it's a very popular pick over in China. Again, it gives you that extra damage source in terms of ability power, but Jax, not enough, unfortunately, for International Jobcenter. And just overall, the composition for Vapo was just very well thought out and was very, very strong.
Like my camera was, I mean, it looked like International Jobcenter was stunned in that one, right? But it's like you were saying within the draft, Stu, that the fact that they just really lacked, obviously, any like extra little bit of AP damage there. Obviously, only Carlos there onto the Jax really could do any AP damage, really sort of like paid off there. And also to the props of Vapo as well, just like kind of denying the snowball from Snorlax onto the Lee Sin into the early game. Obviously getting a lot of kind of like intel with the vision, obviously taking away the Rift Scuttle as well. It was definitely all these little like key moments